It's weird to think about just how much music is created and uploaded to the internet every single day. According to Spotify, they release nearly 40,000 tracks a day, which is roughly 15 million tracks a year. That's more music in a year than you could ever in a million lifetimes probably get through. So as a result, there's a lot of music that gets lost in the shuffle. Whether it's obscure recordings of a 40s blues singer, the pop of a young wannabe, or the extreme metal of an upcoming band, there's a ton of different songs which have never been listened to on Spotify. And that's something I find quite interesting. People have spent all this time writing and recording and performing these songs for no one to hear them. But someone created this website called Forgotify after hearing that there are many millions of songs which have never been played on Spotify. And this website is one which randomly picks songs from Spotify with no listens. It picks the forgotten songs. So I thought it might be quite entertaining to go down the rabbit hole of forgotten music and see what's out there. What will we find on this adventure? Brilliant hidden gems or songs which deserve to be forgotten? Let's take a look through some of the good, the bad, and the downright strange, and hear the stories of the bands and musicians who were never fortunate enough to have their stories told. Before we get into the songs, let's talk a little bit about Forgotify first and the process of music discovery. So Forgotify, it's really easy. You click the button, it gives you a song from Spotify that has no listens, and then you give it a listen and you move on to the next one, see what you like, add them to playlists if you like them, etc, or just through Spotify. And inevitably, as you might imagine, there is a lot of bad music on Forgotify. You would hope, generally, that good music will end up being heard, whereas bad music won't. So it's not really a shock that there's a lot of stuff like this song. Yeah, that was called Sie Dick aus Kleine Maus 2010 Party Mix featuring Die Apostel by Natel. Now, obviously, in-your-face German dance music probably isn't what you come looking for on this channel, so you do have to skip through quite a bit of stuff like that. So I'm going to be curating some of the interesting songs that I found on my journey. There might be good songs, there might be strange songs, there might even be pretty bad, but they're going to be stuff that I've something to say, so a story to tell about them. So we don't just end up with like 20 Romanian dance songs in a row, because sometimes that can happen on Forgotify. Also, I must point out that Forgotify is not perfect when it comes to finding unplayed songs. There were a couple which I found which there was clear evidence on Spotify they had been played. For example, one song I found was called In the Castle of My Skin by Abby Dobson, which apparently has 25,000 listens and is one of her most listened to songs. But still, most of these artists here are lucky to even have 2 monthly listeners on their songs. And both of them are just probably me, to be honest, at this point. So I can believe that most of these have probably not been heard before on Spotify. And the songs that I've picked are certainly ones which seem to have few, if any, listens at all. So let's dive right in. These guys are from Richmond, Virginia in the US and were active from 1984 to apparently the present day, according to Encyclopedia Metallum, though it's not always the most reliable source, but still. And this song here, My Pride, is from their third demo tape in 1991 called Bent to Our Will. Remember when bands used to release demo tapes? Not something you really tend to hear anymore. It's a bit of a shame, actually. But these guys are apparently a power metal band, but they don't really sound like power metal to me. I'm not getting Halloween or Blind Guardian vibes from these. It sounds more like big 80s metal. This song starts like a Diamond Head tune, with a big old yeah and a tasty metallic guitar riff, and rolls along before it kind of goes full AC/DC with this slowed down pre-chorus and chorus, focusing more on just a almost bluesy, harsher riff. And, it doesn't quite have the brilliance of, say, the aforementioned bands, Diamond Head, AC/DC. But you know what? This song has such a charm to it. I just can't help but think of playing this on, like, for some reason, Guitar Hero 3. This song just, I feel, would have been really fit in Guitar Hero 3 back in the day, and I probably would have thought it was badass if I'd heard it on that back in the day, because the bridge especially, and that just gives me such, like, weirdly enough, Living Colour, Cult of Personality vibes, and yeah, and you know, they're a funk metal band, but yeah, it's actually a really good start to the journey, and it's a really pretty good song. I'd actually recommend checking these guys out. It's cool stuff. This one's got kind of a cool vibe about it. So these guys say that they're influenced by the likes of Tom Petty and Big Star, amongst others, and I can definitely hear that here. It's catchy pop rock. It's got this duet between a man and a woman building to a pretty pleasant chorus. I'm not quite sure though when it says on their Bandcamp page they make the maybe slightly arrogant boast that they are America's premier literary rock and roll quartet. I'll grant that an oddly specific title, and it did make me wrap my brains about, well, who else could be America's premier literary rock and roll quartet? I thought maybe the Wallflowers, that's Jacob Dylan's band, son of Bob Dylan, but it turns out they tour as a 5-piece anyway in the studio, it's pretty much Jacob. And then maybe this band Howlin' Rain, who are pretty cool, from California, but a bit literary, but I don't know, maybe this band is indeed America's premier literary rock and roll quartet. I don't know. But there is this really funny review on Amazon which I found of the band. It just says this: the genre is hard listening for grown-ups. Well, I mean, it's an easy listening song, I guess. I mean, you could play this for your kids. I don't know if it's hard listening for grown-ups, maybe a bit hard, but then the guy rated it 5 stars, so God knows what's going on. Now this next one, this is really only for those of you out there who really love your avant-garde and experimental music. If you're a fan of like Captain Beefheart, Steve Reich, Can, krautrock and art music, then boy, have I got something avant-garde for you. This is by an artist called Sharon Lecter, and it really does push the boundaries of what music is. In fact, it really forces the listener to ask the profound question of what music even really is. What denotes something being music to not being music?
Well, that brings up a really good subject, Diane, because I think certainly what's happened in the last few years, a lot of people during the heyday were reading our books and listening to tapes and listening to all the gurus out there and going out and getting into the MLMs.
Yeah, no, this is just an accountant talking about tax law. Yeah, so one of the things about Forgotify is that not everything, I guess, is always going to be a song. And while Spotify does have its own podcast section nowadays, it didn't used to, so people would sometimes upload their audiobooks, and I listened to a little bit of this 20-minute song. It's self-help. It's pretty bad, even for the self-help genre, which I don't rate very highly at all. It is pretty bad. So yeah, if using tax law to your advantage, I presume in America, is your thing, you want to thrive, this might just be your jam. Formed in 2007, these guys claim to be a hardcore punk outfit, but I think the hardcore punk label is about as real to them as, well, the Tooth Fairy. I kind of expected them going in to be like maybe, you know, Dead Kennedys or Black Flag, but nope, these guys are a very different kind of core, metalcore. But before you dismiss them instantly because I dared to utter that forbidden word amongst rock and metal fans, metalcore. This song is actually pretty dope. It's closer to Dillinger Escape Plan than it is Trivium or Killswitch Engage, though for you metal aficionados, the closest comparison is easily Every Time I Die. They're definitely heavily influenced by Every Time I Die, and they're a pretty good band. Rhythmically, the song stutters and stops, it messes about with dissonant chords and melodies, creating a really pleasantly unpleasant soundscape underneath some pretty decent screamo vocals which go from screams to growls to cleans. And look, I'm not really a metalcore listener myself, but I think this is pretty cool. It's got a great groove, some sick riffs, and it's pretty well composed. Ball Breaker by Skinny Ass White Boy. Oh, this was a fun one to Google. Now, this one, you might have guessed, has a bit of a punky vibe to it. I mean, it's pretty clearly a punky song. It's definitely closer to old school punk than, well, Shakody. It's got a repetitive driving riff to it, and it's pretty catchy. I mean, it's a little bit derivative, but the chorus is at least amusing. It says, call me ball breaker, but not tonight. She's so fine, I'm gonna have to make her mine. And then the singer whispers in the left ear, that's right. In a really kind of ASMR way. It's a pretty fun track, to be honest.
Some women don't like fat men. They say they ain't nowhere. But when it comes to loving, yes, I know I ain't no square. Get a fat man like me, and you won't be running around.
Harry Crafton was an R&B artist in Philadelphia from 1949 to 1954, but not much is known about him. He seems to have sunk into relative obscurity in the decades that have followed. We do know that he signed to Gotham Records in 1949. Crafton was one of the first rock guitar players on the label, and he wrote most famously the song Rock the Joint, which, though he never did a version of it himself, bizarrely, was most famously done by Bill Haley and his Comets. But then no one seems to know what happened to him. It seems that he ran a record store in Philly for a bit, but since the mid-60s, he kind of just disappeared. No one's sure if he's alive or dead or whatever became of Harry Crafton. It's one of those stories that can't help but remind you of the Sugar Man from the famous documentary, especially when the song here, Let Me Tell You Baby, is actually pretty great. It's a great piano-driven bluesy number with a wonderful sense of humour to it. There's some genuinely funny lines in this. I love this line. Get a fat man like me and you won't be running around. Let me tell you, mama, there's more love in every pound. Brilliant. None of this humour is derogatory or mean-spirited. It's all good, clean fun with a tasty piano lick and a great vocal performance. I mean, I love me some 40s blues, and this is right up my street. I don't quite know why he's fallen into such obscurity. I've definitely heard worse from the era.
The Rose Movement has begun, thankful for the sun. For our worries and our troubles are just another thorn. All part of the journey roses come through being born.
So, I hear you ask after hearing that, what is the Rose Movement? The Rose Movement is a campaign to keep dreams alive and to help reach our goals. The ROSE stands for Revive Our Soul Energy. That's what this movement is about, and that is the conscious message I'm here to relay to you through music. The whole song is like the clip I showed you. It's just spoken word over a loose, slightly jazzy piano. Then some background singing kind of starts, but it's an odd experience. I've listened to a bit more of the album to just see where this was going, and I guess it's like jazz-infused pop music, really. I mean, I guess it's something a bit different, but I don't really have much more to say on it than that. But then I did find one brilliant thing. On the Bandcamp, it has this as a piece of merch that you can buy. The Rose Charm was invented by Jacqueline Rose. Made with genuine black onyx, the crystal beads contain healing properties of strength and support, both mentally and physically. It is also believed to promote stamina, vigor, and self-confidence. Secured with the Rose Amulet, the medallion is the physical representation of the Rose Nebula depicted on The Story of the Rose Movement album cover. The custom-made Rose Charm is a powerful emblem of hope, ambition, and love to serve and uplift humanity. Yeah, this is a strange world.
Shaky hands and rubber bands, broke down vans and messed up plans, no man's lands and punk rock bands, I still understand.
Johnny's Body is an indie rock band from Gatesville, Texas, formed in 2006. And after a little bit of a hiatus, apparently, according to their Bandcamp, they're writing and performing again in anticipation of their currently untitled sophomore release for the summer of 2013. Now, the summer of 2013 has been and gone, and we haven't really heard anything from them, so who knows. But anyway, Shaky Hands, it's the opening song of their debut and only record to date, Swing Low, Rock and Roll. We begin with a brooding, jangly intro, which instantly reminds me of the Benz era Radiohead, funnily enough. It's got a bit of that 90s alt-rock thing to it, which is kind of fun for something that was from 2009, though the chorus with its hand-clapping rhythms is a little bit closer to more traditional indie rock from the 2000s, I guess, and it's a surprisingly decent song. It's really well produced, and it's got an accordion in it, which is always a bit of a bonus. I just kind of wish that the song would explode at some point. There's this kind of fuzzy guitar solo, but it just fizzes out. But there's a lot of terrible indie out there, and this really is not it.
Benjamin Allen is busy today. He's got a newspaper in his hands, tearing a front page disturbance away. Now he's eating the classified ads.
Benjamin Allen is actually great. It's an understated portrait of a man rendered in an acoustic folk song. It reminds me a lot of Sun Kill Moon, though this actually predates the Sun Kill Moon project, though not Mark Kozolak in music. But yeah, this was from 1999, and it's got a lovely voice, interesting guitar picking, and a memorable refrain built around the titular Benjamin Allen. And now, you can even get this dude to officiate your wedding if you live in New Hampshire. So if you're there and you're getting married, then get this dude. He makes real nice folk music. So what's the takeaway from this video? What was kind of the point of all of this? What are we meant to conclude? Well, we're just meant to see that there's a lot of good, interesting, and funny music out there still to be discovered. Just don't get complacent with your music tastes and think that you've heard it all before, because there's a ton of cool surprises waiting around every corner in music. Music discovery is one of the best parts of being a music fan. And if you want to discover some really strange, really fun, underground stuff, then maybe try Forgotify. I had a lot of fun on Forgotify, and I hope you enjoyed this journey with me. So, this has been TheAIbumMan. Thank you so much for watching. Can't rate, subscribe, click the bell icon, and long live rock and roll.